I would never want to live in New York. It seems to be made up entirely of people too poor to live in anything bigger than a wardrobe, but costing more than a country house, or people too rich to deserve an opinion. And every other day I would have to walk a different route to avoid the camera crews shooting yet another sitcom whose basic message is, wow, isn't this place big? So, a show about a person living far from civilized society moving to New York. Good call, we haven't heard this idea for at least a year. But to be fair, this show does take this to an extreme end that we haven't seen since Crocodile Dundee. No, shush, it's unique. Kimmy Schmidt moves to New York after escaping an underground bunker she spent most of her life in as part of a cult, believing the rest of the world was destroyed by the apocalypse. This background story marks a unique selling point of the show. Most of the time it's an average sitcom, but occasionally it switches to a flashback about the bunker. The only unfortunate thing here is they don't do it nearly often enough, because the bits where there are no flashbacks aren't particularly funny. Perhaps this is a case of the show being for people who don't have my personality. There's a moment when Kimmy convinces a room full of plastic surgery victims to change their hearts first, in a straight-from-Disney moment of inspiration, whereas my approach will be far more sarcastic and aggressive. In fact, there's the real issue. Kimmy herself is so bewildered by the world that she walks around filled with childlike wonder and says things that could be considered kooky. I really fucking hate that word, but I am going somewhere with this. There's an exceptionally fine line between kooky and irritating, a line frequently crossed by New Girl. In fact, there are a lot of similarities between these two shows. Sadly, I don't think I can recommend this show to fans of New Girl, because the secondary cast is far too weak. There are really only two secondary characters. Titus, an exceptionally camp, struggling actor who is sort of funny, but not enough to hang the whole show on, and the blonde woman, I can't remember her name, and didn't want to seem like I care, who I actually find quite unpleasant. It's not just the characters either. Once you get past the first few minutes, it stops being quite as interesting, and by the second or third episode, the whole bunker thing might as well have not happened. It's now turned into a sitcom about poor people living in New York. I can't believe no one has thought about making that kind of show before. Oh, wait. Uniqueness isn't too much of a problem. In fact, in a lot of cases, shows that have interesting premises feel a bit gimmicky after a while. A good comedy show can be about anything as long as it's funny, and this just isn't funny enough. I'm starting to dislike reviewing Netflix originals. As much as I rave about the potential for services like this to be a TV killer, I haven't found a Netflix comedy series that stands up to a lot of TV's offerings. The one saving grace is that Netflix hasn't had sitcom diarrhea just yet. But when it does, my argument in its favour will look incredibly foolish.